With the dust yet to settle over the passage of the landmark Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, Nigerian parliamentarians will be turning their attention this week to the passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The provisions of the 121-page Electoral Amendment Bill will seek to regulate the conduct of elections in federal, state, and area councils in the Federal Capital Territory and other related matters. However, like the PIB passed by the legislature last week, the proposed electoral bill has raised concerns among political pundits, the Southern Governors Forum, and civil society groups who have pointed to the insertion of certain clauses that could be abused and will further compromise the integrity of elections held in the country. Joining us now from our Abuja studio to discuss the controversies surrounding both bills before the National Assembly is the Chairman, House Committee on Petroleum, Upstream, Honorable Musa Sarkin Adar. Welcome to the show, Honorable Adar. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to meet Nigerians and to meet you, the press. Thank you.
Well, very quickly, let's start with the Petroleum Industry Bill. You are Chairman, House Committee on Petroleum, Upstream, so you have a direct interest in the matter. Only yesterday, governors of the southern states of Nigeria met in Lagos, which is now the secretariat of that body. And one of the resolutions, out of the 10 resolutions, is the expression of concern about some of the elements, clauses in the Petroleum Industry Bill as proposed. One, they say they are opposed to the idea of 3% trust fund for the host communities in the country. They want 5%. Some other groups, the Joy Youth Council, PANDEF, the Niger Delta Forum, insist that it must be 10%. Some other persons have questioned the definition of host communities. Another issue that has come up, either from the meeting of the governors of the South and other stakeholders, is this talk about the frontline basins, frontier basins, the Sokoto Basin, the Benue Front, the Benue Trough, the Gongola Basin, the Chad Basin, and Borno, and all these communities will be collecting 30%, even when they do not bear oil within their communities. Now, as Chairman House Committee on Petroleum Upstream, would you like to respond to some of these issues that have been thrown up, and why you think that the National Assembly, the Committee of the Whole, took a wise decision by redefining host communities and by giving money to frontier basins where, at best, whatever has been done there is like a wild goose chase?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruben Abati. First of all, I would like to speak as a Nigerian, not only as somebody who comes from a particular region. Every person has a right to make agitations for his immediate concerns and concerns of his immediate environment, notwithstanding, not at the expense of the peaceful coexistence of a nation that he belongs to. At the moment, the PIB that has been passed, I do not envisage and I do not expect anybody, if he does not applaud the Nigerian parliament, he should not condemn any part of it. One, it went through democratic process. This has been a bill that was brought to the parliament over 13 years ago. I have been a member of the National Assembly since 2007. That is 6th Assembly, 7th, 8th, and now in the 9th. And I had also been a member of the PIB since that time till now, when I'm privileged to chair the Committee on Petroleum Upstream and also at the same time a member of the PIB. I know what had happened throughout those periods and why the failure to pass the PIB happened. This time around, the authors of the PIB had made sacrifice and made significant improvement upon all the concerns and agitations of the various stakeholders, including the oil companies, the host communities, the Nigerian at large. And as much as I could say, it went through normal legislative process democratically. the composition of the membership of the PIB is about 74 wise men, as they are called by the Speaker in the House of Representatives. I cannot remember how many of them were in the Senate. And there had been series of meetings and engagements among ourselves and with the various stakeholders. There were a public hearing conducted at national headquarters. There were also meetings organized and conducted across the state, especially in the South-South. So having gone all through this, all of this, there are members from various regions of the country. I do not think there's any state of the Federation that has not been fully represented in the PIB. And after the PIB report was laid, it was deliberated, debated, and agreed upon by the entire members of the House at the time it was considered. So if anybody went out to misinform his leaders elsewhere that it has been skewed to promote the interests of a particular section, I don't think that person is honest enough to be trusted. And all this that I'm saying are on record. It can be checked from the archives of the National Assembly. It's still there. And I'm sure you, the press, you have followed the proceedings. All of our proceedings, none was hidden, and none was off the camera. So with this, what I would like to appeal is, first of all, you're concerned about the host communities. We understand the need to improve the lives of the people within the areas where all activities are taking place, and also the need to guarantee safety and peaceful exploration and production of oil in those areas. For that reason, the authors made a recommendation of 2.5% of the annual budget expenditure of the oil companies. This money are not coming from Federation account. These monies are much more than the monies of the oil companies that they spend on their OPEX is much more than the budget of Nigeria in any given year. And 2.5% of that amount is very huge. And I think if properly and judiciously utilized, it will improve the lives of the people within the immediate communities around the oil facilities. Unless if it will go in the ways many other interventions have failed, in the interventions such as NDDC, the Ministry of Niger Delta, and Amnesty Program, we should be honest and sincere enough to believe that it is not the laws that are at fault, but the implementers, the people executing the programs and projects put under their trust are the problems. And these people are Nigerians all over, most especially those that are entrusted with the NDDC. What have they done? I'm not trying to instigate anybody. I'm not against anybody expressing his opinion. I'm telling the facts as it is. No matter what you give to host communities, if there are no good people who will manage that provision, it will go back to square zero. What we hope and pray, the arrangement that is put in place, the monies earmarked are going to be managed by the communities by themselves, together with the oil companies that contribute the funds. The government will only be a watchdog to make sure that monies are properly accounted for and properly utilized for the purpose it is meant for. A proviso is given there. 80% is going for the infrastructure of those areas. Provision of water, provision of health care, education, security, and social development. Then 20% is earmarked for the social personal development of the area. Whatever they want to do with 20% is left for them to decide. And each community will provide a representative who will be on the board or on a trustee board that will be established at the end of this. I don't think there's any problem there. And if, like I said, we are not hailed and applauded, we should not be accused of anything. Moreover, every member of the parliament from any region of Nigeria took part in this decision-making. Then, when you come to the issue of frontier basin, frontiers are not only in the north. There are frontiers all over the country. And the whole idea of frontier basin is not to develop any region or to develop any section of the country for its oil to be found. If there's no oil or if there's oil, it is the entire Nigeria. The basins are prescribed by the Department of Petroleum Resources in collaboration with the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, headed by a Minister of State and the Minister of Petroleum Resources and NNPC. These frontiers cut across the Chad, the Sokoto Basin, the Bida, the Benotro, and the Anambra Basin, the Kogi Basin, and the Lagos Basin.
The Gongola
As of now, there are six functional or six potential basins that have proven to have enough reserve that need to be explored. hoping that the discoveries there are in commercial quantities. And that's what the frontier funds are meant for, to provide enough funding to go and make sure and to come to the end of all the political brouhaha where people come to say, no, there's no oil here, is political. Now, if adequate funding is given, data cannot be manipulated. There's adequate technology nowadays. And all this, the seismic data obtained from all these basins have proven to have deposit of oil and gas in large and commercial quantities. All it needs to be done is to be developed properly, and the production should commence when normal procedure is applied. So please, we need to understand this. And you, the press, I'm calling on you. Don't always bring the issue of everything towards north, south. Let's talk about Nigeria. This country, we need to develop it. We must be patriotic enough. Other smaller countries are taking over from us. And let me say this and emphasize why the PIB has passed easily without any rancor. If anybody thought there would be exchange of blows in the parliament, we are now very much matured. People like I and others. There's Nicholas Mutu. He's from the south, from the Delta State. He is now 20 years old in the parliament. Mr. Speaker Pemi Bajamela is in his 20 years in the parliament. There are some of us that have come to that, have been so privileged to be there to garner experience. And we are trying to bequeath such experience to those coming up now. And we told them in everything, let us go with our differences, let us reduce our differences, let's build understanding. And that's how the PIB was passed. So at this moment, we need to understand, in the last 20 years, there were oil in all the 3 African countries, notably Nigeria, Angola, and Gabon. But today, even in West African sub-region, we have oil in Ghana, we have oil in Chad, we have oil in Cameroon, we have oil in Niger. And now there are considerable discoveries in Sierra Leone, in Mauritania, in Guinea-Conakry, and also goes to East Africa. There had never been oil in any of their countries. Now there's oil in Tanzania, there's oil in Uganda, and there's oil or gas in Kenya. Go to South African countries, Namibia and Mozambique, they have all oil, and they have started production. We need to understand this. And above all, the significance of oil in the world economy is reducing, because the major users of energy in the world, that is the Europe, America, and Canada, together have realized the need for them to migrate from the use of fossil oil to renewable energies. And they have now come to terms that from 2032, there will be no use of any fossil fuel car in their areas. They are going to use electrical cars. And they have started exploring, and it has given them a significant, tremendous result. So all this together, we need to understand in the next 30, 40 years, even if you have oil in your area, such as here in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, you cannot export it anywhere. You have to utilize it within your own domain. And even by then, hopefully, we will be technologically advanced to the extent that we can also use other renewable energies. So we need to extract our oil deposits as much as we could, as quick as possible, so that the monies that we can generate from there can be used to develop other sectors such as technology, industry, ICT, and agriculture. This is what I have to take for about what you have raised so far. If there's anything that I have forgotten, you can remind me, and I will, as much as possible, provide what I know.
Well, thank you, Honorable. That point that you made about the migration to renewable energy is possibly one of the reasons why some are opposed to devoting 30% of NNPC's profits on what is fast becoming an anachronism. But you've made the point that domestic use is also a factor. Now, I want to raise quotes that I have here by Chief Edwin Clark, former minister and elder statesman, a man who is not known to make unguarded outbursts. And he described the PIB bill as satanic and unjust. And he said that all companies might be prevented from carrying out their operations. What is your comment on that? Because you have described here a painstaking process, but some people are just not convinced and don't accept it.
My comment on what elder statesmen have said, first of all, I respect him as an elder statesman. Second, I think at this time in history of his life, we should only pray for him to continue to have good health and to remain stable and to be able to guide the coexistence of Nigeria peacefully and not make a comment based on uninformed decision. If what I have read in the papers, what he called the satanic version of the PIB has been passed, I do not want to believe that he has been properly informed by whoever informed him. He must have been misinformed. You know, we are fond of this in Nigeria. People will go back and instigate somebody and tell him what is not the reality. Like, for example, I read where he is saying that 30% is given to the frontier business, and according to what he mentioned, 30% of the oil production. That is not true. It is a profit net. 30% of profit of the sales of the crude sales. Not like, let me make it clear here. The provision for frontier business is coming from the predation funds. The provision for the host communities is coming from the oil stakeholders' money that they put for general expenditure to develop their oil production. There's great difference because what one oil company spends in a year is much more than what Nigeria as a nation spends in a year. And how many oil major companies do we have? We have over 18 of them. And if any of them is spending between a budget of $5 to $10 billion in a year, put together over $100 billion, and 2.5% of that money is going to give about $2.5 billion. Whereas, how much is Nigeria's budget? Nigeria's budget at the moment is about $9 billion. The entire federal budget is about $9 billion. And this is just estimate. It must not be realized. Because in the last 15 years, I have never known where budget implementation recorded releases of 70%. The highest ever achieved was about 50%. So we should clearly understand this. And we should always look at this clearly and sincerely. So I respect Elder Edwin Clark, and I pray people of his, maybe his grandsons are the one going there just trying to jitter him, to tell him, look, these people have passed a bill, and this bill is not good for Nigeria. Like I'm saying, he's an octogenarian. He's now in his 90s. Okay. Allow him to rest and allow him to continue to live in peace. We are praying for him.
Honorable Adar, Edwin Clark might be in his 90s, but he's an educated man, and he has probably read through that bill, and that was his interpretation. And he's a lawyer too by training. I'll tell you the arguments. A lot of people are arguing this way. They're saying, you're saying 30% net for frontier basins. What countries all over the world is they are taking the money from their oil to invest in renewables and alternative sources of energy because oil is no longer viable. And that's what they're saying. I'll give you an instance. Norway has a company too, just like our NNPC, called Statoil, national oil producer. Norway made a conscious effort from 1991 to migrate. Norway too has oil. They put it in the self-reward fund and they migrated using that money they made from oil. So why are we still using this money to look for more oil? That means we're not thinking of the future. Secondly, the second point a lot of people are making is this. They are saying that, and not me saying this, this is Nigerian the southern governors when they came together yesterday. They are saying we're breaking down the NNPC and we're putting it on the Ministry of Finance. They are saying if we want to make the NNPC a limited liability company, we should put it under National Sovereign Insurance Authority, NSIA, so that we can monitor it effectively, not put it under the Ministry of Finance and we go through that bureaucratic bottlenecks. So this is some of the arguments people are making. And Honorable Adar, people have read through the bill and they have a right of interpretation. This is a democracy.
Dr. Ruben, thank you very much.
And who asked the question?
I appreciate your engagement. Let me clarify this to educate you more. The bill was authored by the executive. It was presented to the parliament. It went for the first reading, and you know what the first reading means. And it came to the second reading, where every member who so desired to make a contribution from across the nation, out of 360 that were available at the time, made contributions. And all our contributions were fully recorded. Our contributions on the PIB is there. If anybody wants to see it, he will see what each one of us have raised for or against. And finally, it went for the public hearing, where people like you, Elder Edwin Clark and co., all the agitators, all the civil societies, everybody who have concern for the oil business in Nigeria were expected to come before that public hearing and make his presentation in writing and oral. And it was what were collected at that public hearing that was brought back to the Committee on PIB, analyzed by the experts in the name of consultants hired by the committee. And this committee was populated by 74 members of the House of Representatives. And every clause went through deliberation one after the other. And on every clause, there was a voting. There was no clause that were passed without being subjected to vote. Dr. Reuben Abati, I know you very well, and I always appreciate the way you put in question to people you are interviewing. And I hope the explanation I'm giving will attract your attention to also believe in the fact that I'm laying bare here before you and Nigerians. Nobody went into any room and forced the PIB. It was a collective decision of the National Assembly. There was no any walkout. There's no any hot exchange of words. We did this peacefully with understanding because we are properly educated by the stakeholders in the industry. We invited people to come and give us their understanding. Lawyers, petroleum engineers, petroleum administrators, and everybody that have so much interest to come, and they came. And our decision was informed based on such information from them. We did not act unilaterally. We act from the point of knowledge given to us by the experts.
Well, Honorable Adar, we would like to have your thoughts on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Section 50, Subsection 2 in particular. Over the weekend, there's been this controversy about the attempt by the committee, the joint committee of the two chambers, to ensure that there will be no electronic transmission of votes. This morning, this day newspaper is reporting that there is likely to be a shift. What are your thoughts on this particular controversial section of that bill? And then secondly, the other part that is controversial has to do with campaign finance. Now, to be president of Nigeria, we're told you need to have up to about 15 billion naira maximum. If you want to be a governor, you will need about 5 billion. If you want to be a member of the House of Reps, you will need $500 million. And people have expressed concern that why is this so? This will amount to a deliberate attempt to further monetize the process, and also to institutionalize electoral fraud. Is a member of the Senate that was quoted in the papers today saying that, some amendments will be made with regard to electronic transition. What is the mood generally within the Assembly, particularly the House of Reps?
First of all, let me clarify this. I'm going to speak as a Nigerian, not as a member of parliament, because this thing is just have not been laid. The report has not been laid to us. We're expecting it today. And any attempt by me to pass a judgment on it, I am preempting what my colleagues are going to do, and the rules, our rules, have not allowed that. However, I once chaired the Committee on Electoral Matters between 2007 to 2011, and I have worked on the Electoral Act Amendment 2010. I know most of the concerns of Nigerians for us to have credible elections in Nigeria. The provisions that have been raised by you, let the report be laid to us first. When this report is laid today, hopefully it will be considered tomorrow or next day, Thursday. I wish after it is passed, you can call me again or call any of my colleagues to come and contribute to what is under someone on this. Because now, one, these two controversial clauses that we have mentioned here, if I say anything on or against them, I am preempting our what is expected to be our decision there. As a member there, I will go there. If they are, as you mentioned, I may kick against some or I may support. So for this reason, I will not say much on these provisions.
Right. I want to go back to the PIB then. Why did the PIB stop short of outlawing gas flaring immediately, as has been called for on numerous occasions? Another gap that, well, the critics of the bill as it's been passed point to is that it does not recognize the reality that you pointed to earlier, that migration to renewable energy, that it doesn't even give a nod to climate change and the Paris Agreement. How would you address that?
We are a nation in transition from undeveloped to a developed nation. Every law is not sacrosanct because it is subject to amendment at any moment. Even if President Buhari assented to this PIB as we have passed it today, by next session of the parliament, when we resume from the break we are due to start at the end of this month, anybody, any member can bring any of the clauses, all the entire bill for amendment. So all my own I'm going to appeal is we should not raise tensions, we should not raise unnecessary hope. There is a lot of hope in this PIB. Let me say this, clearly the oil majors threatened they would pull out of the nation if the PIB is not passed. And as we were told by the managers of the oil resources in Nigeria, that in the last 8 years, there have been no new foreign direct investment in the oil sector. Why? Because the oil majors are concerned that they do not have a governing law that guarantees their investments. And for such, no matter what, we must pass the PIB. But that does not mean we pass the PIB wrongly. We did it very patriotically, and we did it with the hope that it will now allow the oil majors and local investors to come and invest in the oil sector. Like I have said earlier, let me remind you this. We need, as much as we could, to utilize the oil resources within the shortest possible time before it becomes obsolete. Until now, there is abundance of coal in the eastern region of this country. And coal is still relevant, but because the relevance have reduced, nobody is talking about that coal. And that coal is still underneath the earth. And it is not helping us. And it will not help the future, our future and future. So the same reason applies to the oil resource. We need to tap it as much as we could and dollarize it, get the money, come and develop other sectors. We will not continue to be here. Whatever we are doing now, we are doing it for the youth and for the people yet unborn. So we must lay a good foundation that will sustain the economic stability of this country.
Honorable, if you can hear me, quickly in 30 seconds, how do you get those opposing you to your side? How do you get those opposing the bill to your side? How do you get them on board?
Even I cannot remember throughout the second reading or the public hearing there was any serious dissent that need to be called aside that he should understand this, because we are on the same page. As members, we move on the same page. I can remember only, listen, I can remember only at one of our retreats in Lagos, there was this abro on the host communities and the frontier business. And when the consultants, the resource persons, explained adequately, everybody understood. And then we sat down together, we were talking to ourselves, and we understand the need to allow the bill to pass. Otherwise, the bill would have been rejected. And even still now, anybody who is opposed to any clause or the entire PIB is allowed, is a democratic setting. He can come forward, not through protest, not through participations, but he can follow the normal procedure. He can ask the member or the senator representing his side to come up on his behalf to present his concern as an amendment to such acts and to such prohibitions. And we will gladly listen to him and contribute and help him understand.
Thank you so much, Honorable. That's where we drop it with that conversation. Thank you for your time.